Good morning, lovely people. Please rise and let's sing our joy song today. Put a little love in your heart.
This one's new to us, but everybody knows it, so sing it out. We'll give you 2 bars. It counts.
Welcome everyone. Please take a moment and turn off your cell phones and your smartphones. I'm looking around to see if we have any visitors, but from where I'm standing it looks like everyone is familiar. So welcome, and we love you. Glad you're here. Today our one-month reader is Anne. Our musician today will be Wendy. And of course, our speaker today is Doug. So we're looking forward to all of those people sharing their gifts. All right, come on up, Anne. We're ready for you.
When we die, we will discover that death is an end to life. Death is a fiction, and that death is instead a transition from our current life to an incredibly greater life. This realization will be immediate. We will discover that our true essence is spirit. We are not the bodies we thought we were. Our true identity, even throughout our earthly life, was and is spiritual. We will discover that connections made during our life on earth continue into eternity. This is particularly the case with those who we know to be our soulmates. With them, we have a bond that cannot be broken throughout eternity. We will discover that we are one with our source, that we have, in fact, never been separated from our source, and that our only sin has been in believing we were separate, when in reality we were not. This too will be an immediate realization. We will discover that our doubts and confusion have vanished, that what had been struggles on the earthly plane no longer exist. We will discover that the ability to choose did not end with our earthly passing, but it is instead vastly expanded. We will discover that death replaces time with timelessness, that eternity is not just a long, long time, but is the absence of time altogether. We will discover that many of the things we valued in this life, comfort, money, sex, privilege, material things, are gone, but that they are really important, but the really important things, unconditional love, life, compassion, memories, knowledge, the capability to continue learning, loving relationships, and meaningful goals remain. We will discover that if we eventually choose to reincarnate, we will return to the earthly plane more highly evolved than when we left it, and it will likely be a life of service to those who continue to struggle. It may also be in the company of soulmates with whom we have traveled for eons. We will discover that on the astral plane, we can only progress to greater understanding and enlightenment. We cannot regress. Our evolution continues on all planes. Given the above, perhaps the only question we need to answer now in this earthly incarnation is, how then should we live now? James L. Foster.
Thank you, Anne. Please join with me in our first hymn called Ever in God's Presence on page 67, and we will sing verses 1 and 3. So rise when you're ready to page 67, Ever in God's Presence, verses 1 and 3.
Good morning. I'm delighted that you're here. We're here today to celebrate God's Day. If you'll allow me, I'm going to deviate just a tad bit from our normal Bible verse. And a thought came to me this week, and I wanted to share it with you. The thought was somewhere along the lines of, I've heard where some people say, delays are meant for God to test us. Delays are meant for ways for God to test us, and I know that is not true. We know that in divine science, that is not true. Reminds me of a little story, and I'll share this with you. There was a lady, she was getting up in years. She was about 84 years old. And she said, Doug, I need to get in shape. I need to start exercising. So she joined a senior aerobics class. And the first day of class came, and she twisted and she turned and she gyrated to the right, and then she gyrated to the left, and she jumped up and down. She perspired for over an hour. And finally she had her leotards on. Thank you. Delay. But it's not God's way of testing us. And in that thought and in that vein, I picked a little poem I wanted to share with you. This is how we delay. We do it to ourselves. It's not a test from God. Between failure and success, the point is so fine. We sometimes do not know when they touch the line. Just when the pearl was with one more plunge, how many a struggle is thrown up the sponge. Then take this honey from the bittersweet cup. There is no failure. There is no failure except in giving up. No, God does not test us. Delay is not a test. This divine spirit, this God of love, we in divine science know better. Thank you. Oh, I'm sorry. I should do our statement of being now. I always forget that. Please recite with me in your orders of service. God is all, both invisible and visible. One presence, one mind, one power is all. This one that is all was perfect life, perfect love, and perfect substance. I am the individualized expression of God. I am that ever one with this perfect life, perfect love, and perfect substance.
This first song is kind of self-explanatory, I guess. It's something we all need to be reminded of.
When I woke up this morning and I looked in the mirror, a voice came in my head, pointing out each fear. She said, "You're fat, you're stupid, you're ugly. How'd you get this way?" In that moment I'd had enough, and I said, "No way, because I'm good enough, good enough. Nothing here is missing. Give myself permission to be good enough, good enough. I got the right stuff. I'm good enough." Well, all those waving models in the magazines I see every day, it looks like a tiny breeze could just blow them away. But I'm a woman of substance, standing in my power. Right here, right now, I do declare that it's my finest hour, and I'm good enough, good enough. No longer wishing to give myself permission to be good enough, good enough. I got the right stuff. I'm good enough. Well, I'm no Cindy Crawford and I'm no Tyra Banks, but I got a body that's healthy, and for that I give thanks. I don't have to be perfect. Who I am is okay. I good enough, good enough. We got the right stuff, we're good enough. Yeah, nothing here is missing. We all got the right stuff. Every single one of us, we're good, good, good enough. Yeah.
Now is the wonderful time of our healing meditation. As the lights are turned down and we take a deep breath. We quiet ourselves down a bit. We can leave that which happened in the morning, we can leave it aside. That which happened yesterday, we can leave that aside also. The morning sun brings with it another day, God's promise of light into our life. Whatever your problem, prayer is the answer. Whatever your burden, prayer is the answer. Whatever you may feel you lack in life, prayer is the answer. Remember, we are praying whenever we even think of God. And as we think of Him this morning, we let loose and let go of the burdens that we felt. We breathe the breath of life. On my lips and on my tongue, I have those that I wish to pray for. I'm sure you do too. And even for yourself. Maybe especially today for yourself. This promise of the new day, this promise of the sun, is there for you too. In your own life, to be healed and uplifted, to be loved, in the next 90 seconds of silence, I invite you to feel God's love in your life, within your life, working in your life, being a part of your life. Gently, gently, we will now go within. my beloved, we have been touched by God's hand, by God's promise, by His divine love, His omnipresence. And we give thanks for it. Such gratitude in our lives for our very nation, our country, as we step into perilous times. These are not God-tested times. These are just times, and there will be divine order. And we can trust in God. Thank you, Father. Thank you. And it is so. Amen. Now that we're in a prayerful mood, if you recite the Lord's Prayer with me. Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed is thy name. Thy kingdom come. Thy will is done on earth as it is in heaven. Thou give us this day our daily bread. Thou forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Thou leadest us not into temptation, but dost deliver us from all evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory. Amen. Today I'm going to talk a bit about trials and tribulation. I might be different from many of you. I've had a few trials and tribulation in my life. You might not have. So this might be more for me than for you. In Romans 12, Paul wrote, "Rejoice in hope. Be patient in tribulation. Be constant in prayer." And this is what we're going to carry forward throughout the whole talk this morning. Rejoice in hope. Be patient in tribulation. And be constant in prayer. Yes, I've gone through some perils and some tribulation sometimes. In 1875, there was a gentleman by the name of John Muir, and he named this particular tree. It's on the western slopes of the Sierra Nevadas in California. The tree is called the giant sequoia. Oh, you know the giant sequoia. You've probably heard about it or read about it. It's the largest living organism on Earth. And it's the oldest thing on Earth alive. They can grow over 300 and some feet high. They're over 3,000 years old, older than the very time of Jesus. One in particular we have today, it's called the General Sherman. It's 275 feet high. If you're a tree hugger, you know tree huggers? If you're a tree hugger, it might be hard on this one. Its circumference is 100 feet. It's estimated to weigh 2.7 million pounds. And its bark is over 3 feet thick. And they think the General Sherman is over 2,500 years old. What makes this particular tree so remarkable to me is its patience in tribulation. You see, the tree does not reproduce by bumblebees or by birds spreading the seed from the canopy of the tree. It reproduces only by the ravages of fire. And we control fire these days, as you know, but so they have to do controlled burns for this tree to reproduce itself. the pod or the cone can stay on the tree for up to 20 years. And when the ravages of fire come, it heats up to the very top of the branches where these seed pods are, these cones. And only then will it release its seed. You see, the undergrowth has been burned away. And the nutrients have been turned back into the soil. And the seed can then take root only after the winter storms and the winter snows come and take it a little bit deeper into the soil. But now it has a chance to grow. It doesn't have all that undergrowth. It has a chance for change, patience, and tribulation. It has that chance for growth. Well, I thought that was a remarkable thing about the giant sequoia. And in the Bible, if you look in the Bible, there's so many events and so many stories told about so many characters in the Bible that have had so many things happen to them. There's Job, of course, but I'm going to talk about Joseph. We can bring him out in this. He was the son of Jacob, and they were in Canaan. Joseph, as you know, he had 11 brothers, older brothers. And he came to his father Jacob. He came into being and came into life when his father was very aged. And I guess being the baby of the family, he was adored a little bit too much, I don't know. But his older brothers were very, very jealous. Matter of fact, his father, if you remember, even made him a coat of many colors. The rest of the brothers had just plain old coats as they went about their business out in the fields. But Joseph had this special coat. And to make things even worse, Joseph was prone to dreams and interpreting dreams. He had several, one more, he said all the brothers had gathered up their wheat stalks, 11 of them. And Joseph was in the middle, and he said all the wheat stalks bowed down before him. Of course, the brothers didn't like to hear that. He said, who is this person? And then he had another dream. He said he was dreaming the sun and the moon and the stars all bowed down before him. And he's told his father about that, and his father thought it was fairly interesting. And of course it incensed his brothers even more. So they got amongst themselves and said, well, let's just get rid of Joseph. So one day his father sent him out to get his brothers. They were in further fields away from them, keeping watch over the sheep and so forth. As Joseph got closer, the brothers said, why don't we just throw him into a dry well, a cistern? Get rid of him. Kill him. And so they did. They threw him in a dry well. And then they sort of changed their mind a little bit. And some travelers were coming through, some traders from Egypt. So they sold Joseph into slavery, 30 pieces of silver. Well, Joseph went off, and he ended up into the household of a gentleman by the name of Potiphar. He was a very wealthy individual. And Joseph was such an organizer and a manager of finances and a manager of the household that he ended up taking over the household for Potiphar. Well, a long story short, he got in trouble with the wife, and the wife said something that was completely untrue, and Joseph ended up in prison. And then in prison, he started foretelling dreams again. There was a baker and a cupbearer, and he told their dreams. And after the cupbearer was released, he was supposed to go tell the Pharaoh how this man could foretell dreams, but he waited 2 years. And Joseph languished in prison. And then the cupbearer had told the Pharaoh that Joseph was one that could interpret dreams. So the Pharaoh had him released to him. And the Pharaoh said, I've been having dreams, and he described a couple of them. One of them was, there were some fat cattle coming out of a stream. And after that, there were really thin cattle coming out of the stream, and they were famished. And the thin cows ate the fat cows. What is that? And then there was another dream about some wheat stalks. When Joseph interpreted dreams, he said, well, it appears to him that it's going to be 7 years of abundant harvest. Abundant harvest. And 7 years of famine. And if you're a very smart Pharaoh, you will gather up all the grains and the food you can in this abundant time, so as to feed the people when the 7 years of famine comes. And the Pharaoh listened to him. Matter of fact, he put Joseph in charge of this because he realized he was so capable, so good at managerial skills. And it came to pass that there was abundance and then famine. And then later, he meets his brothers again, and the story goes on a little bit more. The point I want to make is the patience in tribulation, the trials. You see, in just this short, brief history of Joseph's life, we've seen him thrown into a dry well. We've seen him sold into slavery. We've seen him imprisoned. Look at all the trials he went through, and yet he ended up rising to the second in command of the Egyptian empire, right underneath Pharaoh. Yes, rejoice in hope. Have patience in tribulation. I want to also tell you about another little story. It's about the Holy Sepulchre. Oh, you know that place in Jerusalem. It's that place where we think Jesus was crucified and also buried. The tomb. It's the holiest of holiest of holiest places. In 325, Constantine, the Roman Emperor, came and conquered the place. Later in 614, the Persians came. And then 638, the Muslims came and conquered. And in the 1009, the Turks came. The place has seen a lot of activity. And the primary keepers, the primary people that worship here are the Roman Catholics, the Armenians, and the Greek Orthodox. This is the holiest of holiest of holiest places in Jerusalem. In 1157, a family was given the key. It's a 12-inch key made of iron. They were given the key to open the doors to the Holy Sepulchre. 1157. This family has passed it down from grandfather, from great-grandfather to grandfather, from grandfather to son, to father. It's just gone down the lineage. Still in the same family for over 1,300 years. This key that opens up the Holy Sepulchre. Now remember, I said that the three primary religious affiliations here are the Roman Catholics, Armenians, and Greek Orthodox. And this key is not kept by any of them. This key that's been in the same family for over 1,300 years is kept by a Muslim family. Because the Roman Catholics, the Armenians, and the Greek Orthodox cannot agree on anything. A Muslim has to keep watch and keep the key of this sacred of sacred places. This man who keeps the key, he was given the key when he was 15 years old. He's 52 now. Every morning at 4 a.m. he gets up and he goes down the same walkway that he's walked all these years. At 4 a.m. and he takes that iron key and opens the sepulchre. And he's a Muslim. What's wrong with us? What's wrong with us that we can't get along, that we don't change, that we don't have this patience in tribulation? To make the story even worse, in 1757, they think the Armenians wanted to do a little stonework, and there was a ladder placed against a wall in 1757. And the Roman Catholics and the Armenians and the Greek Orthodox, in this holiest of holy place, to this day cannot agree on who to move that ladder or where to move it to. It still sits where it did in 1757. What's wrong with us? Are we so resistant to change, to compromise? Rejoice in hope, patience in tribulation, be constant in prayer. I was reading in divine science literature, and I do take great comfort in reading the divine science. And one of the quotes I read, it said, with growth comes the faith in God nature and in the indwelling Christ and the potential in all of us. I thought that was wonderful. With growth comes our faith in our God nature, our indwelling Christ, and the potential for all of us. Now, this is not a law of divine science, but I'm going to call it the law of change. It's how we express change. And I can see in my studies in divine science, and I'm sure you can too, that we have changed our behavior, we have changed our thinking, we might have even changed our friends. Be patient in tribulation. We are like that seed pod of the great sequoia, where the underbrush has been burned off. We're ready to be planted. We are like that seed that's buried by the snow, to be arisen in newness and in change, in compromise. And in closing, I just want you to remember these three words. When you do go through that trials and tribulations, rejoice in hope, be patient with yourself in tribulation, and always be constant in prayer. Will you go within with me now? Oh, Father, thank you so much for the day and for the words of divine science and how we can grow, how we can learn, understand, become even more Christ-natured. Thank you, Father. And it is so. Amen. Thank you.
This next song I listened to when I was young. I remember hearing it a lot when I was young, and I didn't think much of it, didn't think much about it. And then I heard it again just about a month ago, and was just amazed. I don't think I'd ever listened to the words before. I never really paid attention, and my gosh, they were beautiful. And then someone decided to do it as the hymn last Sunday. I was like, well, rats. Well, I'm going to do it again anyway. You're just going to have to suffer through it. We're all in this together.
Oh Lord, my God, when I in awesome wonder consider all the worlds thy hands have made, I see the stars, I hear the rolling thunder, thy power throughout the universe display. Then sings my soul, my Savior God, to thee. How great thou art, how great thou art. Then sings my soul, my Savior God, to thee. How great thou art, how great thou art. When through the woods and forest glades I wander and hear the birds sing sweetly in the trees. When I look down from lofty mountains' grandeur and see the brook and feel the gentle breeze, then sings my soul, my Savior God, to thee. How great thou art, how great thou art. Then sings my soul, my Savior God, to thee. How great thou art, how great thou art. When Christ shall come with shout of acclamation and take me home, what joy shall fill my heart. Then I shall bow in humble adoration and then proclaim, my God, how great thou art. Then sings my soul, my Savior God, to thee. How great thou art, how great thou art. Then sings my soul, my Savior God, to thee. How great thou art.
want to just be quiet for a minute? Yeah, that was beautiful. It's time now for us to give what was first given us. So think deeply for a few moments about all that you've been given. And say with me our blessing of the gifts. Today I acknowledge God, omnipresent, as the source of all good, as the source of my good. With this acknowledgement, I accept His will, which is abundance in every aspect of my life. I release all thoughts of lack and limitation, and I am open and receptive to the increased flow of abundance to me right now. I joyfully accept the gifts of life and give freely of the special gift that I am. Through me, God omnipresent blesses and multiplies this gift for all. Thank you, dear God. And as our prayer baskets are coming around, take a moment to turn to one another and say thank you for the special gift that you are. Good to see Thanks, guys. Please take a name from our prayer basket as it comes around and say some prayers. Thank you.
Thank you for your special gift.
Good morning. Thank you, Doug, for that wonderful message, and Wendy for that, whew, one song. One of my favorite songs in you do. Just great job. Doug, that was a message I think we all need to hear. If I can't, we all get along. Just, Doug and I have a conversation every morning, text-wise, and we talk about a lot of things. And so,
I think we should go move the ladder.
I think you're right. I think we should. So, it was quite interesting. So thanks for that. Anyhow, today is the 1st of June. Well, not the 1st of June, but we're going to celebrate June birthdays. So the birthday people are Kendrick, he's not here, Pam Woods, Grace, Sylvia, and Wanda. Grace and Pam and Sylvia are here, so let's see your birthday. And speaking of birthdays, we had asked the people sign up to help bring the birthday cakes. We have 1 month left for, I think, September. If somebody would be willing to sign up for September to bring a birthday cake, we would appreciate it. That way it gives Bob Dieter and myself a little break so that we don't have to do them every month. So, we appreciate the people that have signed up, and so if you can do it on September, we would greatly appreciate it. I want to give a great big thanks to all the 10 people that showed up yesterday that did all this hard work around here. Everybody that wasn't here, please go out and look to see what we did. We hauled away 2 truckloads of stuff, and we've got another one thanks to Kathy and her truck. I don't know what we'd do if we didn't have her truck, and plus Kathy. But it was a lot of hard work yesterday, and we were here longer than 12 o'clock, but that's okay. We got a lot done. I appreciate the people giving up their Saturdays. I know there are other things we'd like to do, but I appreciate you giving up your time and coming and helping to take care of that. We're probably going to have another work day, probably in early fall. Maybe try to have a couple a year instead of just once a year. Maybe we can get a hold of some of this stuff and not let it get so far out of control. I also want to thank the people that helped. We had water in the basement with all the flooding we had last week, and we've had some very bad smells down there. So I thank Jerry and Martha and Elton and everybody else that helped clean up that smell down there. And it's still smelling some, but it's a whole lot better than it was the first of the week. So, well, I appreciate everything everybody's done to help with that. So I don't know what we're going to do to solve that problem, but hopefully we won't have that kind of rain again anytime soon. So anyhow, again, thanks for that. let's see, I got a couple sign-up sheets, one for the birthday cake and one is also, we're still, if you want to donate some money in honor of your parents, we've got a sign-up sheet for that. This is going to be the last Sunday, I'm going to pass that out. Also, we're leaving the parents' pictures up until Father's Day, which is 2 more Sundays. So if you haven't bought a picture and you want to, please feel free to do that. People really enjoy them. They try to figure out whose parents they are, and so some of them we still don't know, so we'll find out hopefully Father's Day. So also, as we talked, they started putting the soffit around the church. So if you have not had a chance to look at that, please do so. They have not finished. They've done this part and part of the front. So, but it looks so much better. So if you'll go take a chance and, take time and go out and look at that. And I appreciate all the effort that everybody has done over the past couple of years to fundraise, to get money to pay for that. So it's been a long time coming, but anyhow, I appreciate all the efforts. We will be having some more fundraisers to do some other things, but right now we're going to take care of that. So thanks again for doing that. And let's see, and also want to thank you for all these things that we've taken a lot of things to Oak Grove. Martha made a whole list and posted it of the things that we've taken to Oak Grove for their Snack-a-Pack program. Also, the toilet paper holders and paper towel holders, but especially the Snack-a-Pack things that and we're going to continue to do that during the summer so that they will have, starting school back in September, August, September, we'll have something to take over there the first of the school year. So we'll continue to do that for the summer and all through next year. And lastly, the flowers today are for Pam Wood's birthday. Happy birthday, Pam. I know it's a little early. And one last thing is that we are going, this Friday night, we're going to Valhalla Winery. The time is from 4 to 9, I think. So some of us usually go around 4 o'clock to get a table, and then everybody can come and we're going to celebrate June's birthday. So anybody that's go, please come. Yes, sir. And we're glad to see Gil back today. So glad to see
Can I say something?
him. Sure you can.
I just want to thank everybody for your thoughts and prayers. A beautiful flowers for the church. I'm a living testimony of prayer. Prayed with Maria before my surgery, and I prayed after my surgery. And it's hard to explain it unless you experience something, but I had a lot of fears. I know that prayer got me through it. You are my family.
Did you want to say anything about your class, Maria?
Oh, we're having a class and it's just fine, and we accept anybody who would like to come.
All right, I think I covered everything. All right.
All right, family, please sing with me hymn number 83, Confident Living, and we'll sing verses 1 and 2. That's number 83, Confident Living.